Book of Su, son of Jehovih. Chapter 1. Jehovih spake in the gardens of Atahavia, precinct of Su, Orion chief in the Etherian firmament, saying, Su, my son, what of the red star, the far-off earth? Behold, her harvests are blighted. She is becoming barren and imparting immortal souls to my unending realms. 2. Su heard the voice, and he said, In thy name, O Jehovah, will I summon my gods of Hoyt and Isaracha. 3. Swift messengers departed, and Su, quick perceiving god of two worlds in the Etherian Semar, foresaw the importance of the coming red star. He said, This, with my gods of Hoyt and Isaracha, who will come in swift speed, shall be the second deliverance. 4. Then came Lawing, god of Hoyt, and presently Sivian, goddess of Isaracha, and they stood before Jehovah's throne. Su said, 5. Jehovah hath spoken. Behold, the red star bringeth forth nor sons nor daughters more to Jehovah's realms. She is weak, unstrung, and out of tune, and cometh this way. And I said, 6. In thy power and wisdom, O Jehovah, will I visit the red star. 6 years I will stand on her soil, and course her heaven, and such potency give to her confused gods and lords as will make 1,000 million sing for joy. To accompany me I have called you. Behold, I have charts and maps of her heaven and her corporeal parts, and a history of her, as yet young adventures in the field of worlds. 7. Then spake Lawing and Sivian, saying, To do Jehovah's will and thine, behold, we are come to thee. Give us to fulfill whatsoever thou wilt. 8. To the swift messengers Su said, Ye have heard. Go proclaim throughout my Etherian worlds my will, and summon up from Etheivius 100 million skilled volunteers. When the red star shall cross the wing of Isaracha, we will go forth in power and land on her troubled parts in a sea of golden light. Chapter 2. In the Ariniuska of Portan, of the Etherian worlds and division of Hoyt and Isaracha, flew the call of the gods for volunteers, than which a more welcome sound is not heard in high heaven to do Jehovah's will. And with the voice and call there rose up hosts from every quarter, and from every subdivision, till the complement stood ready for the great work. And yet so vast were the fields and arcs of Isaracha that the 100 millions chosen were as but a fraction compared to those left uncalled. 2. Coming near the throne of Su in Aoit, the 100 millions formed in squares and stars, and the chosen god took his place to the head and front, looking to the low horizon, where rose the red star, the sick earth. 3. And now the builders who had measured the elements lying in the route toward the earth formed their crescent ship of fire, and equipped it, and with mantles and curtains and banners created it a vessel of beauty and ornaments as well as service. 4. Hardly was the ship completed when Jehovah's light encompassed it about on all sides, so that that which was beautiful before was now illuminated and sparkling and bright as the sun, and rich in golden colors, for of such kind was the eth of the heavens hereabout created. 5. When Su entered the ship, the voice of Jehovah came, saying, Another cycle came and is gone on the earth, and her heaven, but still they fall to barrenness, ere the succeeding dawn. Go now, O Su, my son, and a wider range give to the tetrarchs of both angels and mortals. Give a greater scope to tyrants, kings and queens on earth, and greater to the self-gods and self-lords in Hada, and more responsibility. 6. Then all hands entered the Etherian ships, singing and rejoicing, observed by countless millions come to wish them a haven of joy on their 6 years' visit to the corporeal earth. 7. Su said, In thy name, O Jehovah, and by virtue of thy power in me vested, my host shall forth at my commands. Cut loose, ye gods, and thou, O ship of heaven born, to the red star, the earth. Be gone. And Su stretched forth his hand and waved them. And lo, the mighty ship of heaven turned on its axis, cutting loose from the high firmament. And it turned, with its great curtains and banners, sailing gracefully and swiftly through the blue aether. 8. The music of her essenars swelled and rolled along on the spheres of many worlds unseen to mortals, where dwelt countless millions of spectators viewing the marvelous speed and power and brilliant colors of the great ship. Faster and faster she sped on, till nearing Chinvent, which now cut sharp in the fields and forests of Isaracha, over which was potent the name of Su, the companion god and chiefest friend of Af, Orion chief, son of Jehovih. 9. When the ship came to the bridge and halted, to take in the plan of the whirling earth, Su said, Alight, alight, ye gods! And at once, as high as the moon and bright as the sun, the illuminated ship stood, to overawe the self-gods and warrior kings, and murderers of the earth-born, whose plentiful souls in chaos polluted heaven. 10. For 3 days and nights, Su held his starship to the wonderful task of mastering by the marvelous scene. And then slowly he entered the vortex of the earth, but held his course, nor with the earth and her heaven. For he desired that both corporeans and atmospherians should witness the coming power. So slowly he came, but 50,000 miles a day, that when the ship neared the disorganized Horeb, the self-gods and self-lords fled and left their well-supplied kingdom desolate, and down to the earth rushed in thousands, and with their host in millions, to hide or safely stow themselves from agonized just hate. 11. But the true God and Lord stood firm in their completed kingdoms, fearing not, but in faith that this Etherian ship was Jehovah's answer to their long cry for help from the heavenly spheres. And by their pillars of fire still standing, great soon knew where to land in the lower heaven for safe anchorage. So to Horeb he came, slowly and toward the throne of God, and when he neared the place, his essenars chanted and the trumpeters played, the sound of which music came to the ears of God and his host, and they were the hymns of more than 1,000 years ago. 12. And God and his host sent up rockets and displayed the 3 primary colors, the sign of Jehovah's name, and God's essenars joined in chanting with the host above. Presently the ship of fire was at the place of landing, and Su, Jehovah's son, cast out a ladder and descended, with his hosts, the 100,000,000 angels led by Gusitivi, marshalless of the throne of Su and Isaracha. 13. Su said, Hail, O God of heaven and earth, in Jehovah's name I am come in power and wisdom. And God answered, Glory be to thee, O Jehovah, that thy son hath come so far to bless thy bewildered kingdom. Then they saluted with the signs of the 6th resurrection, whereupon God said, 14. In the name of the Great Spirit, come thou and honor my throne. So Su went forward, and they greeted by shaking hands. And Su ascended and sat on the throne, saying, Keep thy place, O God, for I am not come to displace thee or thy host of Jehovah, but to build up for his glory. Be seated, therefore, for I feel the light of the Father descending on my head. 15. Presently all light enveloped Su, and the Father's voice spake through him, saying, Hear the words of thy Creator, my Son, and rejoice because I have not forgotten thee and thy people. Behold, this is the hour of thy redemption from the trials of Tetrarchs, which are run abroad in my dominions. 16. Was it not worse than this in the olden time? And I came with my hosts and delivered them. I created man in darkness and gave to him no judgment, that the creation of his own thoughts might be for his own glory forever. But instead of beautifying his thoughts, he hearkened to Tetrarchs and clothed himself in clouds. The heaven I built for him, he diggeth to pieces, and then built it his own, but only to be displeased and turbulent. Neither will he content himself for providing with his own hands, but searches out my most dutiful sons and daughters, making slaves of them for his own exaltation. 17. Behold, I have aforetime sent my sons and daughters to search out these traitors and self-gods, declaring unto them that only by forsaking evil and practicing righteousness could they attain to my exalted kingdoms. Their evil places have I cast down and rebuilt in honor and glory, that their own judgment might determine that virtue and good works are the sure foundation of happiness that will endure forever. But when I have raised them up in one cycle and made the lower heaven a paradise, alas, my Aetherians have been gone away for a little while, when the tetrax take root and grow and turn all things upside down. 18. But now will I build them up in a new way. Yeah, I will appropriate the evil of their inventions to their own good in a way they dreamt not. The false gods and false lords shall be arrested and brought before the judgment seat, and I will judge them by their own behavior and desires. Neither will I torment them nor abridge them happiness. Send, therefore, my son, thy marshals into hidden places of these gods and lords, and say to them, Thus saith the hosts of heaven, Come, my son, and inherit a kingdom in Hada, in thine own way, for lo, there is room for all. But that thou art not left behind, come quickly to Horeb. 19. And they will come, hoping to embellish themselves in the older manner. But my light shall come in due time, in mine own way. 20. The voice ceased, but Su spake of his own account, saying, What Jehovih hath ordered, do ye. So marshals and priests were sent in all directions in Atmospheria to gather in the false gods and false lords who had deserted their dominions in fear of the light of Su's Aetherian ship. And after many days the false ones were brought to Horeb, and there were of them 7,000 lords and gods. 21. Now, when they were before Su, Jehovih's son, and arranged so that all could hear and see, even the whole council beside, the light gathered around about the throne, and Su addressed them, saying, 22. Hear me, O men and women, I have sent for you, and ye are here. In this I am pleased. Know then that what I speak shall be in love and tenderness. Ye have deserted Jehovah's kingdoms, and it must be because it pleased you better than to remain. Is this not true? And ye also deserted your own false kingdoms? 23. For a little while they consulted together, and then answered, saying, Nay, it pleases not to desert our own kingdoms. But we were afraid. 24. Su said, Who think ye I am? They answered, A god from some far-off world. But where it lieth, we know not. We desire to know who thou art. 25. Su said, I am but a man, fear me not. But since ye feared, and so deserted your kingdoms, does it not prove that ye are not the all-highest? And do ye not perceive that, because ye had no all-highest, ye were divided and inharmonious? 26. Hear then that which I say, and consider my words. I want not your kingdoms, nor anything ye have, but that harmony may reign in heaven. I will give every one of you more than ye had, and add power unto you also. 27. Since ye behold I am come to Horeb, the throne of the ancients, perceive ye not the whatsoever accordeth with me is of my power also? Take then your kingdoms, and be gods and goddesses, and ye assume before, and I will anoint ye, and make ye as a part and parcel of one united whole. Again they counseled together, and then answered. 28. Why shall we take our kingdoms? Our slaves have deserted us. Our kingdoms are pillaged of all their value. Yeah, our slaves have become wandering spirits, and are returned to the earth, and are making their habitations with mortals, so that the people of earth are aroused because of miracles and wonders occurring on earth. 29. Su said, What can ye say to these wandering spirits that will induce them to come up away from mortals? To which they answered, If we promise them provender and clothes and plenty of rest, they will come. But when we put them to labor, they will run away, having tasted of liberty. 30. Su said, How then made ye slaves of them in the first place? To which they answered, We took them in the day their mortal bodies died, and they never saw nor knew any other place in heaven. So we appropriated them to our service dutifully. 31. Su said, Know then, this is my conclusion. First, that ye shall all be made as sub-gods to one confederacy, and your kingdoms shall be fair to look upon, and well supplied with all things needful. 32. Behold, there are on earth, with the barbarians, hosts of familiars and feudals. Whoever then of you will go down to the earth and bring them away to Horeb, shall have them for his slaves. And whoever bringeth the greatest number, to him will I reward the greatest kingdom. And if it be that ye can find emissaries to work for you in bringing feudals and familiars away from the barbarians, then shall such labor be accounted to your credit. And ye shall station around about in the corporeal cities certain angels, whose labor shall be to receive newborn spirits on birth blankets and bring them to your kingdoms also, for they shall be your slaves. 33. After that manner spake Su, and the false gods and goddesses were highly pleased, and they divided themselves into certain districts over mortals and for lower heavens, and were at once sent off to labor in their own way, and they were named sub-gods. 34. Su said, These sub-gods have much weight with the barbarians, because they advise them in war. But behold, it shall come to pass, when the sub-gods have robbed the barbarians of their familiar spirits, the Ihan priest will have a greater weight with them. 35. And the sub-gods will desire to find favor in my sight, and so teach their slaves, the which will cause them to emancipate themselves in time to come. Chapter 3. Jehovah spake through Su, saying, Mine is a strong government, and everlasting. Hearken to the wisdom of your Creator, O my sons and daughters, wherein have I not given liberty to all people? He that doeth aright, wherein is he not free? He that doeth wrong, wherein hath he liberty? Whoever endeavoureth to surpass himself, have I not shown him his limit? 2. I created man at 0, but for him to add unto himself forever. Liberty I gave him to add only that which perfecteth his own soul. Wherefore, if he eat poison, it taketh from his body, which I gave. Herein made I a boundary, both on earth and in heaven, which is to say, inasmuch as man accumulateth virtue, wisdom, patience, love, truth, and pure words, he is free, because in so doing he followeth me in my works. But he that seeketh to glorify himself in his possessions bindeth himself, because he is unlike me. For I gave all, and thus made the universe. 3. 2 states, therefore, have I created open to all men, both on earth and in atmospheria, which are liberty and bondage. And man I made to choose that which he will, but that he might not err. Behold, I send my emancipated angels to explain these things beforehand. 4. Even so are governments ordained by my holy ones, wherein ye may judge whether a government be of me or against me. For if it give liberty to all righteous works, and for the promotion of knowledge, providing teachers to the extent of the demand, it is of me. But if the government maketh of itself a self, for which its aggrandizement is at the expense of my children's liberty, then it is against me. 5. For I have not created a people to be today as were their forefathers, but provided them with perpetual growth in wisdom and virtue. Wherefore, the rising generations shall rebel against that which was well and good for their forefathers. All my governments understand this, whether on earth or in heaven. Whatever government accepted not this rule shall go down to destruction. For as I have hedged man about with sentinels, such as pestilence, poverty, and hunger, in order to awaken him to knowledge and industry, so have I hedged in all governments under the sun with sentinels, such as rebellion and assassinations and war and bankruptcy. As pestilence proveth man's disobedience to my commandments, so do rebellion and anarchy prove the disobedience of governments to the progressive spirit with which I created man. 6. The self-God saith, I will make a strong government. By armies and cruel masters will I bind the subjects in my dominions. And he draweth up a multitude of laws, and heapeth up books to explain the laws, and findeth judges to explain the books that explain the laws. And he saith, Behold how wise I am. Behold the great wisdom of my judges. Behold the great learning of my books. Behold my most perfect laws. Behold my armies that stand behind all, and in great power. 7. But lo, a star appeareth in heaven, and all his fabric goeth, as a spider's web. For instead of choosing his Creator, who is strong, he erected things that were as nothing. 8. Hear thy Creator, O my God, for through my Son I bequeath a new light to the lower heaven. For, as thou hast proportioned to the self-gods to take kingdoms, suffer them to hedge themselves with a multitude of laws. But thou thyself shalt have no laws, save the rites and ceremonies, which thou shalt adorn with music and processions. 9. And it shall come to pass that the dominions of the self-gods will prosper for a season, and they will, for sake of self-glory, deplete the earth people of familiar spirits and feudals. But in time after, their subjects will tire of the laws of the self-gods, and hearing that thou hast no laws, save rites and ceremonies, they will come to Horeb of their own accord. 10. Henceforth, then, shalt thou convert the nurseries and hospitals and factories and places of education into places of delight and recreation. 11. The voice ceased, but Sue said, Behold, a time cometh in all the atmospherian heavens when the discipline of former days must give way to something new, and such a time is now in this kingdom. It may be likened to a young child that hath been led by the hand for a long time, but now hath become strong of limb so as to walk alone. 12. For this purpose hath the earth been brought through the fields of Isaracha, and my hosts are come with music and wisdom. Hear then my decree, O God of earth, and thou shalt be the most blessed of gods. Send thy messengers into all parts of Atmospheria, proclaiming a recreation of 10 days, of music and dancing and marching, with pageantry and feasting, to be in Horeb in the first of the moon of Japheth. 13. The rest leave to the Father, for he will provide us in the time thereof. And whilst the time is coming, I will go around the earth with my host in my Etherian ship. 14. God said, I perceive thy wisdom, O Jehovah. In thy decrees am I raised up with new wisdom and power. Oh, that I could have devised a way for them before they fell so low. 15. Su called the council and his own host from the labor to recreation for 1 day, and the people mingled together rejoicing. For of the Etherians with the hosts of Su were many who had been earthborn, many thousands of years before, and their assurance of the emancipated heavens above had greater weight with the Atmospherians than anything that others could say. Then Su and his host visited the earth and her heavens, and after that returned again to Horeb.